Everyone thinks they already understand how this comparison ends, and that confidence is exactly the problem. Bruce Lee was never preparing for rounds, judges, or win records, while modern MMA is built entirely around those realities. One was chasing efficiency without boundaries, the other perfects performance within them. When you place these two side by side, the mismatch isn't physical, it's conceptual. And once that difference becomes clear, the way you view fighting, training, and even competition itself starts to feel incomplete. Modern MMA is built around clearly defined conditions that rarely change. Fighters know the size of the cage, the length of the rounds, the rules that govern engagement, and the objectives that decide victory. Training is designed to solve these known problems as efficiently as possible. Preparation becomes a process of refinement rather than uncertainty. Predictability allows systems to form and strategies to repeat. Success depends on mastering what is already understood. Within this structure, opponents are variations of a familiar model. They operate under the same expectations and limitations. Even surprises occur within a narrow range of possibilities. Fighters learn to anticipate patterns rather than chaos. This environment rewards consistency and reliability. Unknowns are minimized so performance can be measured fairly. Bruce Lee approached combat from a fundamentally different angle. He was less interested in preparing for what could be named and more concerned with what could not. His thinking centered on change, disorder, and unpredictability. He questioned how one could respond when conditions shift unexpectedly. Preparation for him was not about repetition but readiness. The unknown was not an exception but the norm. Preparing for the unknown requires abandoning the comfort of fixed answers. Bruce Lee understood that reality rarely follows rules or expectations. Situations change without warning, and responses must adapt instantly. He trained the ability to adjust rather than the ability to repeat. This mindset treats uncertainty as a constant presence. Readiness replaces strategy as the primary goal. Known problems can be solved with optimized systems. Unknown problems demand awareness and flexibility. Bruce Lee focused on cultivating perception, timing, and responsiveness. These qualities cannot be memorized or rehearsed in the same way techniques can. They must be developed through exposure and reflection. This development creates a different kind of preparedness. MMA training emphasizes efficiency within boundaries. Bruce Lee's approach emphasized freedom beyond boundaries. One is designed to perform well in a specific arena. The other aims to function across changing environments. Neither approach is inherently wrong, but they serve different purposes. The gap appears when one is mistaken for the other. When fighters train for known problems, they grow confident in solutions that have already worked. This confidence is valuable but conditional. It depends on the environment remaining stable. Bruce Lee questioned what happens when stability disappears. His preparation assumed instability from the beginning. This assumption reshaped how he viewed effectiveness. Unpredictability forces the mind to remain alert. Bruce Lee valued this alertness above technique. He believed that awareness allows the body to respond naturally. Training the unknown means training perception rather than response patterns. This approach resists rigidity. It stays alive because it is never finished. Known scenarios encourage specialization. Fighters become experts in specific exchanges and positions. Bruce Lee resisted specialization that reduced adaptability. He feared becoming excellent at one situation and vulnerable in others. His preparation aimed to remain fluid. Fluidity allowed him to move between situations without hesitation. The unknown cannot be rehearsed, only respected. Bruce Lee respected it enough to build his philosophy around it. He trained principles rather than sequences. Principles adapt when circumstances change. Sequences break when they are disrupted. This distinction defines the difference in preparation. Modern MMA fighters refine answers. Bruce Lee refined questions. He believed that asking the right questions kept learning active. Answers, once fixed, can create stagnation. Questions invite continuous adjustment. This mindset keeps preparation evolving. Training for known problems rewards predictability. Training for unknown ones demands resilience. Bruce Lee focused on resilience of mind and movement. He wanted responses that could survive surprise. This resilience cannot be tested fully in controlled environments. It must be cultivated intentionally. The gap between these approaches is subtle but significant. It does not appear in highlight reels or scorecards. It appears in philosophy and intent. One prepares for a contest. The other prepares for uncertainty itself. This difference shapes everything that follows. Understanding this contrast changes how comparison is viewed. It is not about superiority or weakness. It is about purpose and preparation. Bruce Lee and modern MMA solve different problems. Confusion arises when those problems are treated as the same. The mismatch exists because the goals are different. Modern MMA trains to excel within known conditions. Bruce Lee prepared for situations that resist definition. One perfects the predictable. The other embraces uncertainty. This is where the gap quietly but decisively appears. Competition is designed to reward what can be measured, repeated, and judged fairly. In modern MMA, consistency becomes one of the most valuable traits an athlete can possess. Techniques are refined until they work reliably against a wide range of opponents within the same rule set. Training focuses on reducing error and increasing predictability. This environment favors solutions that succeed again and again. Reliability becomes a form of safety. Consistency allows systems to be built and perfected. Fighters know which techniques score, which positions are rewarded, and which risks are punished. Over time, training sharpens a narrow set of high-percentage actions. These actions become habits. Habits reduce uncertainty and increase confidence. Competition thrives on this stability. However, consistency comes with an unseen cost. When the same solutions are relied upon repeatedly, they become predictable. Predictability invites countermeasures. Bruce Lee was deeply aware of this vulnerability. He believed that repetition without adaptation creates weakness over time. What works today may fail tomorrow if conditions change. Bruce Lee valued adaptability because it resists predictability. Instead of perfecting a fixed response, he focused on the ability to change responses instantly. Adaptability allows movement between solutions rather than dependence on one. It treats change as expected rather than disruptive. This mindset remains alert rather than settled. Competition environments reduce chaos to protect fairness. Rules limit variables so outcomes can be compared. Bruce Lee's philosophy assumed the opposite. He believed chaos was unavoidable and should be prepared for, not removed. Training that ignores chaos risks collapse when unpredictability appears. Adaptability becomes essential in those moments. Consistent techniques succeed when conditions remain familiar. When spacing, timing, or context shifts unexpectedly, those techniques can lose effectiveness. Bruce Lee questioned reliance on familiarity. He wanted skills that could survive disruption. This required training awareness rather than routines. Awareness adapts where routines fail. Adaptability requires comfort with uncertainty. Bruce Lee trained his mind to remain flexible under pressure. Instead of clinging to a plan, he emphasized responsiveness. This approach sacrifices immediate certainty for long-term resilience. Adaptability stays useful across situations because it is not tied to one solution. Competition rewards efficiency within limits. Adaptability often appears inefficient because it resists specialization. Bruce Lee accepted this trade-off. He believed that narrow efficiency creates fragility. Broader adaptability creates durability. One shines in known conditions, the other survives unknown ones. Repeated solutions create confidence, but also dependency. Bruce Lee warned against dependency on any single method. Dependency narrows perception. Adaptability keeps perception wide. This difference shapes how one responds under stress. Winning matches confirms consistency. It reinforces existing strategies. Bruce Lee did not see winning as final confirmation. He believed success could hide weaknesses. Adaptability demands continuous questioning even after success. Growth continues when answers feel incomplete. Chaos does not announce itself. It appears suddenly and disrupts patterns. Techniques trained for consistency struggle when patterns break. Bruce Lee prepared for this by cultivating responsiveness rather than routines. His adaptability aimed to absorb shock rather than resist it. Consistency seeks to eliminate variation. Adaptability expects variation. Bruce Lee trained for fluctuation in distance, timing, and intent. This training keeps skills fluid. Fluidity allows movement between possibilities without hesitation. Competition structures reward stability. Bruce Lee trained instability. One seeks control through repetition, the other seeks readiness through change. These approaches reflect different priorities. Confusion arises when they are judged by the same standard. Adaptability does not reject consistency entirely. It simply refuses to depend on it. Bruce Lee understood the value of reliable skill, but refused to let it become rigid. Flexibility remained central. Skills stayed alive rather than fixed. Competition rewards consistency because consistency is measurable. Adaptability resists measurement because it shifts constantly. Bruce Lee prioritized what survives change rather than what scores points. What wins matches may shine briefly. What survives chaos endures longer. Technique often advances quickly because it is visible, testable, and easy to measure. In modern MMA, new combinations, strategies, and physical methods appear constantly. Coaches refine systems based on what wins matches and scores points. Progress is tracked through outcomes, rankings, and records. This makes technical evolution fast and obvious. However, understanding does not always move at the same pace. Wins and losses strongly influence how techniques are judged. When something succeeds in competition, it is labeled effective. When it fails, it is discarded. This results-driven approach shapes training priorities. Over time, understanding becomes closely tied to outcomes rather than principles. Technique improves, but the reasoning behind it may remain shallow. Bruce Lee approached this problem differently. He believed understanding should not depend on victory or defeat. For him, insight had value even without competition. He separated learning from results and focused on why something worked, not just whether it did. This separation allowed understanding to stand independently. Knowledge became deeper than performance. When understanding is tied only to results, stagnation can go unnoticed. A technique may keep working long enough to avoid scrutiny. Success can hide inefficiency and weakness. Bruce Lee warned that this kind of success creates blind spots. Without reflection, growth slows while appearing active. Progress becomes superficial. Technique evolves because it responds to external pressure. Fighters adapt to opponents, rules, and trends. Understanding requires internal pressure instead. It demands questioning assumptions and examining causes. Bruce Lee emphasized this internal process. He believed that without it, technical progress remains incomplete. Modern MMA encourages constant refinement of methods. Fighters drill what has already proven effective. This repetition improves execution but may not deepen insight. Bruce Lee valued reflection alongside practice. He wanted to know the underlying principles guiding movement. Principles outlast techniques because they adapt across contexts. Understanding requires time and deliberate thought. It cannot always be measured immediately. Competition rarely rewards this process directly. Bruce Lee accepted this limitation and trained accordingly. He invested in awareness, timing, and perception rather than relying solely on outcomes. This investment produced flexibility rather than fixed answers. When technique evolves faster than understanding, learning becomes reactive. Adjustments are made only after failure or loss. Bruce Lee preferred proactive learning. He questioned methods even when they worked. This habit prevented stagnation. Insight stayed ahead of performance. Results-based evaluation also narrows perspective. It focuses attention on what wins now, not what might work later. Bruce Lee resisted this narrow focus. He explored possibilities beyond immediate success. This exploration expanded understanding beyond current conditions. Understanding that stands without competition remains stable. It does not collapse when rules change or environments shift. Bruce Lee trained for this stability. He wanted insight that survived beyond any single context. This approach reduced dependency on external validation. Technique can be copied, but understanding must be built. Bruce Lee emphasized personal exploration to develop insight. He believed that borrowed techniques without understanding limit growth. True progress requires internal clarity. That clarity cannot be inherited or measured easily. When outcomes dominate learning, fear of failure increases. Fighters may avoid experimentation to protect records. Bruce Lee viewed experimentation as essential. He accepted failure as part of understanding. This openness allowed insight to evolve continuously. Understanding also connects different areas of practice. It links movement, timing, and intention into a coherent whole. Technique alone can remain fragmented. Bruce Lee sought integration rather than accumulation. His focus unified skill and awareness. Skill without understanding can look impressive while remaining fragile. It may function well until conditions change. Bruce Lee prepared for change by grounding skill in insight. This grounding made his approach adaptable. Understanding became the foundation, not the result. Technique will always evolve faster because it responds to visible demands. Understanding evolves more slowly because it requires reflection and honesty. Bruce Lee prioritized this slower process. He believed insight should stand even without competition. Without understanding, technical progress risks becoming a movement without meaning. Elite MMA athletes represent some of the highest levels of physical conditioning ever achieved in combat sports. Their strength, endurance, speed, and resilience are the result of advanced training methods and constant refinement. This level of conditioning allows fighters to perform at an extraordinary pace for extended periods. It creates confidence in the body's ability to endure stress. However, physical readiness can sometimes conceal deeper issues. When the body compensates, the mind may stop questioning. Conditioning has a powerful masking effect. When an athlete can push through fatigue or recover quickly, inefficient decisions may not feel costly. Mistakes are absorbed by stamina rather than exposed by consequence. Over time, this can reduce the urgency to analyze strategy deeply. Performance continues, so flaws remain hidden. The body carries what the mind fails to examine. Bruce Lee approached preparation from the opposite direction. He believed that clarity of thought must come before physical dominance. For him, strength was a tool, not a solution. Conditioning enhanced execution, but it could not correct flawed ideas. Without clear understanding, physical ability only amplifies what already exists. If the concept is weak, strength makes the weakness louder. Physical power can create the illusion of correctness. When a tactic works because of superior conditioning, it may be mistaken for good strategy. Bruce Lee warned against this confusion. He understood that success driven by physical advantage can collapse when that advantage disappears. Concepts must stand on their own. Conditioning should support ideas, not substitute for them. Strategic blind spots often emerge slowly. As long as results remain positive, there is little incentive to look deeper. Elite conditioning delays exposure to these gaps. Bruce Lee emphasized exposing weaknesses early through thought and reflection. He believed clarity prevents dependency on physical dominance. Awareness keeps learning honest. Conditioning is visible and measurable, which makes it easy to prioritize. Thought processes are less obvious and harder to evaluate. Modern training often focuses on what can be tracked and optimized. Bruce Lee focused on what could be understood and refined internally. He valued perception, timing, and decision-making as foundations. These qualities determine how strength is applied. When physical conditioning becomes the primary focus, strategy can become reactive. Fighters rely on endurance to recover from poor positioning or late decisions. Bruce Lee preferred anticipation over recovery. He wanted to avoid problems rather than endure them. This required mental sharpness before physical response. Conditioning also encourages specialization. Athletes build bodies optimized for specific demands. This optimization can narrow perspective. Bruce Lee resisted over-specialization because it limited adaptability. He believed flexibility of thought mattered more than physical extremes. Adaptability begins in the mind. High conditioning can delay learning by softening consequences. When errors are survivable, they are easier to ignore. Bruce Lee believed mistakes should teach immediately. Clear understanding accelerates correction. Conditioning should not cushion poor judgment. It should enhance good judgment. Strength without clarity can lead to reliance on force. Bruce Lee emphasized efficiency over exertion. He sought solutions that required less effort, not more. Conditioning supported this goal, but did not define it. The idea came first, the body followed. Elite conditioning also creates confidence that can resist critique when the body performs well. Questioning strategy feels unnecessary. Bruce Lee challenged this mindset. He questioned himself continuously, regardless of physical readiness. This habit kept his understanding sharp. Conceptual limitations reveal themselves when conditions change. Injuries, fatigue, or unfamiliar situations reduce physical advantage. Bruce Lee prepared for these moments by grounding his approach in understanding. When strength fades, clarity remains. Conditioning alone cannot adapt without thought. Bruce Lee believed that the mind should lead the body. Conditioning amplifies whatever direction the mind provides. If the direction is flawed, power accelerates failure. Clear thinking ensures strength is used wisely. Without it, conditioning becomes misdirected effort. Training that prioritizes conditioning without reflection risks imbalance. Bruce Lee sought balance between body and mind. He viewed conditioning as an extension of understanding, not its replacement. Strength magnifies intention. It does not create it. Physical conditioning hides conceptual limitations when it is mistaken for completeness. Elite fitness is impressive, but it is not insight. Bruce Lee emphasized clarity before dominance because ideas determine outcomes. Conditioning amplifies ideas, whether strong or weak. Without understanding, strength becomes loud but incomplete. Modern MMA is built on rules designed to create balance, safety, and fairness for everyone involved. Weight classes, time limits, gloves, and prohibited techniques exist to reduce risk and ensure competition remains controlled. These structures allow fighters to prepare for known conditions. They also make outcomes comparable and understandable. Sport benefits from clarity and order. Fairness becomes a central value. Simplification is necessary for organized competition. Without it, chaos would make judging impossible and safety unpredictable. Rules narrow the range of possibilities, so skill can be measured consistently. This narrowing helps audiences, officials, and athletes operate within shared expectations. Modern MMA succeeds because of this structure. Order makes sport possible. However, simplification always comes with trade-offs. When complexity is removed, certain realities are also removed. Situations become cleaner, more predictable, and easier to manage. Bruce Lee was aware of this cost. He understood that real situations are rarely fair, balanced, or controlled. Reality does not offer equal conditions. Bruce Lee was less concerned with creating fairness and more concerned with understanding reality. He questioned how someone should respond when conditions are uneven, unexpected, or changing. His mindset did not assume equal size, equal readiness, or mutual agreement. Preparation focused on asymmetry rather than balance. Reality for him was complex by nature. Rules simplify fighting by limiting variables. Bruce Lee explored fighting by expanding them. He wanted to understand how distance, timing, environment, and intention interact without restriction. Complexity was not something to avoid, but something to study. He believed simplification could create blind spots. Awareness required embracing uncertainty. Modern MMA removes techniques to protect athletes and maintain structure. Bruce Lee examined techniques based on effectiveness, not acceptability. He was not dismissive of safety, but he did not confuse safety with truth. What is allowed in sport is not the same as what exists in reality. This distinction shaped his thinking. Fairness encourages preparation within equal frameworks. Bruce Lee prepared for imbalance. He assumed opponents would not cooperate, conditions would not repeat, and outcomes would not be clean. This assumption demanded adaptability rather than optimization. Complexity forced responsiveness. Preparation became flexible rather than fixed. Simplified systems reward specialization. Fighters become excellent within defined boundaries. Bruce Lee resisted boundaries that reduced adaptability. He believed specialization could create dependency on conditions that might disappear. Complexity keeps skills alive by demanding constant adjustment. Simplicity can quietly encourage rigidity. Rules also create predictability. Fighters know what cannot happen, which reduces mental load. Bruce Lee removed that certainty from his preparation. He believed that expecting unpredictability sharpened awareness. When nothing is guaranteed, attention increases. Complexity keeps the mind engaged. Sport simplifies conflict to make it teachable and repeatable. Bruce Lee saw conflict as inherently fluid. He believed understanding required engaging with that fluidity. Fixed rules could not capture every interaction. Complexity preserved realism. Realism mattered more than order. Fairness also shapes mindset. When conditions are equal, focus shifts toward execution. Bruce Lee focused on adaptation to inequality. He trained to respond when advantage shifted unexpectedly. This mindset demanded humility and alertness. Complexity kept complacency away. Simplification helps measure performance, but it can distort perception. What looks effective in a simplified environment may fail elsewhere. Bruce Lee questioned effectiveness outside structure. He sought principles that survived change. Complexity tested those principles honestly. Modern MMA prioritizes safety, entertainment, and fairness. Bruce Lee prioritized understanding, adaptability, and awareness. These priorities lead to different training philosophies. Neither is inherently superior, but they are not the same. Confusion arises when sport is mistaken for reality. Bruce Lee's mindset lived inside complexity because complexity reflects life itself. Life does not pause for rules or reset after rounds. He believed preparation should reflect that truth. Complexity kept training aligned with unpredictability. Simplification moved it toward control. Modern MMA simplifies fighting to improve fairness and safety, and it succeeds as a sport because of that choice. Bruce Lee accepted complexity because he was searching for reality rather than competition. Sport benefits from simplification. Understanding benefits from complexity. The difference lies not in skill but in purpose. Winning provides clarity, but that clarity often comes with closure. In modern MMA, victory confirms strategies, validates preparation, and reinforces existing choices. When something works, it is repeated, refined, and trusted. Success creates confidence, and confidence reduces doubt. Over time, answers replace questions. The system rewards confirmation more than curiosity. Competition measures outcomes, not understanding. A win answers whether a method was sufficient under specific conditions. It does not necessarily explain why it worked or how it might fail elsewhere. Bruce Lee was aware of this limitation. He believed that answers gained through victory are incomplete by nature. Without further questioning, learning quietly slows. Success has a stabilizing effect on thinking. When results are positive, there is little pressure to change. MMA fighters often build careers around proven approaches. This consistency is rewarded and protected. Bruce Lee saw danger in this comfort. He believed that unquestioned success can hide deeper possibilities. Bruce Lee treated every outcome as temporary information rather than final truth. Even when something worked, he asked whether it could work better. His philosophy refused to settle. Victory did not end inquiry. It intensified it. Answers became starting points rather than conclusions. Curiosity stayed alive. Winning can close doors by signaling completion. Once a method is confirmed, alternatives are often ignored. Bruce Lee resisted this narrowing of perspective. He believed progress requires openness to new questions. When answers feel complete, exploration stops. Growth begins where certainty weakens. MMA success encourages refinement of what already exists. Bruce Lee encouraged reinvention of what exists. He questioned fundamentals rather than polishing outcomes. This habit kept his thinking fluid. Progress became a continuous process rather than a reward-driven cycle. Questions replace comfort. Asking new questions requires humility. It means accepting that success does not equal mastery. Bruce Lee embraced this humility by staying skeptical of his own answers. He viewed confidence as dangerous when it prevented inquiry. Questioning kept his understanding honest. Ego did not guide learning. Winning provides external validation. Bruce Lee valued internal clarity more. He believed understanding should stand even without applause or confirmation. When learning depends on results, it becomes conditional. When learning depends on inquiry, it becomes durable. Questions outlast outcomes. Answers often simplify reality. They reduce complexity into conclusions that feel manageable. Bruce Lee resisted oversimplification. He believed reality was layered and dynamic. New questions kept him engaged with that complexity. Simplification felt incomplete. In competition, success becomes a benchmark. Fighters measure progress against wins and losses. Bruce Lee measured progress against insight and adaptability. This difference shaped how learning continued after success. Victory did not signal arrival. It signaled reassessment. When answers dominate, experimentation declines. Risk feels unnecessary once something works. Bruce Lee valued experimentation even when it threatened comfort. He believed stagnation was more dangerous than failure. New questions reopened exploration. Curiosity stayed active. Questions also prepare the mind for change. When conditions shift, those who rely on answers struggle to adapt. Bruce Lee's habit of questioning kept him flexible. He expected change rather than resisted it. Inquiry made adaptation natural. Winning answers what happened, not what might happen. Bruce Lee focused on possibility rather than history. He asked how effectiveness could evolve. This forward-looking mindset prevented fixation on past success. Learning moved ahead of results. Progress often begins when answers feel insufficient. Bruce Lee welcomed that discomfort. Incompleteness signaled opportunity. Questions replaced satisfaction. This restlessness fueled innovation. Winning answers questions, but it does not generate new ones. Bruce Lee understood that mastery requires continuous inquiry. Victory may confirm ability, but questioning expands it. Progress begins not with answers, but with the courage to doubt them. The tension surrounding comparisons between Bruce Lee and modern MMA rarely comes from questioning athletes themselves. Fighters train hard, compete bravely, and operate at extraordinary physical levels. The discomfort appears elsewhere, in the structure that defines how fighting is organized, measured, and understood. Bruce Lee did not challenge individuals. He challenged the frameworks surrounding them. His ideas questioned whether systems themselves should be trusted without examination. That distinction often goes unnoticed. Systems provide order, predictability, and legitimacy. Modern MMA relies on structured rules, rankings, and standardized environments to function as a sport. These systems allow fairness, safety, and comparison. Bruce Lee was less interested in preserving order and more interested in exposing assumptions. His thinking unsettles because it refuses to accept structure as permanent truth. It asks whether systems serve understanding or merely convenience. Athletes operate inside systems because systems make participation possible. Bruce Lee operated outside them because he was searching for principles that existed regardless of format. This difference creates friction. Systems seek stability, while his ideas invite disruption. Disruption feels threatening when stability is valued. The challenge is philosophical, not personal. Bruce Lee's approach questioned boundaries that many systems rely on for clarity. He asked what happens when rules disappear, when conditions change, or when expectations fail. MMA systems are designed to reduce these variables. That reduction makes competition manageable but also limits perspective. Bruce Lee's thinking exposes those limits without attacking the athletes within them. When people feel defensive about comparisons, it is often because systems feel personal. Fans, practitioners, and institutions invest identity into structure. Bruce Lee's ideas imply that structure is provisional, not absolute. That implication can feel destabilizing. It challenges the foundation rather than the performance built on top of it. Systems reward conformity because conformity keeps them functioning. Bruce Lee valued individuality because individuality adapts. His philosophy encouraged breaking from fixed forms. This encouragement threatens systems that depend on uniform standards. The discomfort arises from questioning the necessity of those standards. Athletes succeed by mastering systems. Bruce Lee questioned whether mastery should be confined by systems at all. This question does not diminish skill. It reframes it. Skill becomes contextual rather than ranked. Systems resist this reframing because they rely on hierarchy and comparison. Bruce Lee dissolved hierarchy in favor of adaptability. The contrast unsettles because it exposes assumptions people rarely examine. Many assume that organized competition represents the highest form of combat understanding. Bruce Lee did not share this assumption. He separated effectiveness from competition. This separation challenges the idea that systems define truth. Bruce Lee's ideas remove comfort zones. Systems provide certainty about what matters and how success is measured. His philosophy replaces certainty with inquiry. Inquiry feels uncomfortable because it offers no final answers. It keeps understanding open-ended. Systems prefer closure. When systems are questioned, authority feels threatened. Bruce Lee questioned authority, rooted in tradition, structure, and repetition. He did not do so aggressively, but persistently. His questions undermine reliance on inherited frameworks. That persistence makes his ideas difficult to ignore. MMA systems evolve, but they still depend on structure to exist. Bruce Lee's thinking remains flexible because it resists final form. This flexibility contrasts sharply with system-based progression. The unease comes from comparing something fluid with something fixed. Fluidity challenges fixation. Athletes are visible and celebrated. Systems are invisible but powerful. Bruce Lee targeted what was invisible. He asked why certain rules exist and whether they limit understanding. This focus shifts attention away from spectacle toward philosophy. Philosophy is harder to defend than performance. The debate often misses this point entirely. It frames the issue as fighter versus fighter, strength versus strength. Bruce Lee's ideas bypass that framing. They question whether such comparisons are meaningful at all. This reframing unsettles because it dissolves the argument itself. Systems create consensus. Bruce Lee encouraged personal verification. Consensus feels safe because it is shared. Personal verification demands responsibility. His philosophy transfers responsibility from system to individual. That transfer feels uncomfortable because it removes external validation. Bruce Lee's ideas threaten systems because systems rely on fixed definitions. He challenged the idea that any structure could fully capture reality. The discomfort surrounding comparison is not about disrespecting fighters. It is about confronting the possibility that structure itself may be incomplete. That realization unsettles foundations, not skill levels. The unease around this comparison doesn't come from questioning ability or athleticism. It comes from realizing that systems we rely on may not tell the whole story. Bruce Lee never tried to compete with structures. He examined them. By doing so, he shifted attention away from rankings and outcomes toward adaptability and understanding. That shift challenges comfort, not competence. And in that challenge, the conversation moves beyond who is better toward what actually matters when structure falls away.